Dr. Elena Vasquez was having what she thought would be just another boring Tuesday at work. She sat in her small office at the International Space Relations Institute, looking through research papers about alien plant life. Coffee stains marked her desk calendar, and her lab coat hung crooked on the back of her chair. At 28 years old, she had spent the last 5 years studying how different planets supported life. It was fascinating work, but most days felt pretty normal. That morning started like any other. Elena grabbed her usual coffee from the machine down the hall and settled in to review some data from a recent space mission. The phone rang around 10:30. Her boss, Director Thompson, sounded different on the other end. His voice carried a strange mix of excitement and worry. "Elena, I need you in conference room A right now. We have some very important visitors, and they specifically asked for you." She frowned at her computer screen. "Important visitors? I don't have any meetings scheduled today. Just come quickly. And Elena, try to keep an open mind about what you're going to hear." That comment made her stomach flutter with nervousness. Director Thompson never talked like that. She quickly tidied her hair, straightened her lab coat, and walked down the long hallway to the main conference room. Her footsteps echoed against the polished floors. When Elena opened the heavy glass door, she stopped breathing for a moment. The conference room looked completely different. Instead of the usual boring beige walls and plastic chairs, the space now glowed with soft blue light. Strange symbols floated in the air like holograms, and the temperature felt pleasantly warm despite the building's usual chill. At the far end of the long table stood the most beautiful being Elena had ever seen. The woman was tall, maybe 6.5 feet, with skin that seemed to shimmer like moonlight on water. Her hair flowed like liquid silver down to her shoulders, and her eyes held the deep purple color of twilight skies. She wore robes that seemed to be made of starlight itself, shifting and glowing with each movement. "Dr. Elena Vasquez," the being said, her voice carrying a musical quality that made Elena's heart skip. "I am Princess Zarathea of the Celestian Empire. I have traveled many light years to meet you." Elena managed to close her mouth and nod. She had read about the Celestians in classified reports, but seeing one in person felt like stepping into a dream. The princess moved with grace that seemed almost impossible, as if gravity affected her differently. Director Thompson gestured for Elena to sit down. His hands shook slightly as he poured water from a pitcher. "Princess Zarathea has come here, with some very important news concerning you specifically, Elena." The princess smiled, and Elena noticed that her teeth sparkled like small diamonds. "Dr. Vasquez, what I am about to tell you may come as quite a surprise. Our families have chosen us to be married, and I am here to honor that sacred bond." Elena felt like the room started spinning. "I'm sorry, what did you just say?" 20 years ago, when my people first made contact with Earth, your grandmother, Dr. Maria Vasquez, worked closely with our diplomatic teams. She was a brilliant woman who understood the importance of building bridges between our worlds. Princess Zarathea's expression grew warm with fond memory. "During those early negotiations, our families agreed to unite our bloodlines as a symbol of lasting peace and cooperation between humans and Celestians. My grandmother never mentioned anything about arranging my marriage to an alien princess," Elena said, her voice getting higher with each word. "Are you absolutely sure about this?" The princess reached into her flowing robes and pulled out what looked like a crystal tablet. She placed it on the table, and immediately a 3-dimensional image appeared above it. Elena gasped as she saw her grandmother's face, looking exactly as she remembered from old family photos. "This is the recording of our agreement," Princess Zarathea explained gently. "Your grandmother understood that such arrangements take time to develop properly. She knew you would need to grow up, complete your education, and establish yourself in your chosen field before we could meet." In the hologram, Elena watched her grandmother speaking in careful formal tones with several Celestian officials. The conversation was in multiple languages, but Elena could make out enough to understand that they were indeed discussing some kind of future union between the families. "But this is crazy!" Elena protested, standing up so quickly that her chair rolled backward. "People don't just arrange marriages anymore, especially not with aliens. I mean, no offense, Your Highness, but I barely know you exist." Princess Zarathia's expression remained patient and kind. "I understand your shock, Dr. Vasquez. In my culture, arranged unions are considered the highest honor. Families spend years studying compatibility, shared interests, and life goals before making such decisions. Your grandmother provided detailed information about your personality, your dedication to science, and your strong moral character. She studied me for an arranged marriage." Elena felt dizzy and grabbed the back of her chair for support. "Indeed. I have followed your research for several years now. Your work on cross-planetary ecosystem adaptation is remarkable. I believe we share many intellectual interests and values that would make us highly compatible partners." Elena looked around the room desperately. Director Thompson watched with sympathy, but also with the expression of someone who couldn't help her out of this situation. Two other government officials sat quietly in the corner, taking notes on everything being said. "This has to be some kind of mistake," Elena said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can't just marry someone because my grandmother signed some paper 20 years ago. That's not how life works." The princess stepped closer, and Elena caught a scent like flowers blooming under starlight. "Dr. Vasquez, I do not wish to cause you distress. In my world, such arrangements are made with great care and consideration. Your grandmother spoke of you with tremendous love and pride. She believed we would suit each other well. But you don't even know me," Elena argued. "How can you be okay with marrying a complete stranger?" Princess Zarathia's purple eyes sparkled with something that might have been amusement. "Actually, I know quite a lot about you. I know you graduated top of your class in xenobiology. I know you volunteer at the animal shelter every weekend. I know you prefer coffee to tea, that you read mystery novels when you cannot sleep, and that you once spent 3 days straight trying to save a dying plant from the Alpha Centauri system." Elena's mouth fell open again. "How could you possibly know all that? Your grandmother shared many stories about your character and interests. Plus, I have been permitted to observe some of your research presentations through our diplomatic channels. You are exactly as brilliant and compassionate as she described." The room fell silent except for the soft humming of the holographic projector. Elena felt overwhelmed by the strange turn her ordinary Tuesday had taken. Just this morning, her biggest worry had been whether the coffee machine would break again. Now she was being told she was supposed to marry an alien princess. "I need some time to process this," Elena said finally. "This is all happening too fast." Princess Zarathia bowed her head respectfully. "Of course, Dr. Vasquez. I understand this news is unexpected. I will be staying on Earth for the next several months to allow us to become properly acquainted before our bonding ceremony. I look forward to learning more about human customs and spending time with my intended partner." As the princess gathered her crystal tablet and prepared to leave, Elena felt a strange mix of panic and curiosity. The being seemed genuinely kind and intelligent, but the whole situation felt like something out of a science fiction movie rather than real life. "Wait," Elena called out as the princess reached the door. "What happens if I say no?" Princess Zarathia turned back with a sad smile. "That would be most unfortunate, Dr. Vasquez. Such bonds are considered sacred contracts between our peoples. Breaking them could damage the peaceful relationships our worlds have worked so hard to build." After the princess left, Elena slumped back into her chair and stared at the place where the hologram had been. Her quiet, predictable life had just become incredibly complicated, and she had no idea what she was supposed to do about it. Elena spent the entire night after the meeting staring at her ceiling, unable to sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Princess Zarathia's shimmering face and heard those impossible words. Our families have chosen us to be married. By morning, she had convinced herself that maybe it was all just a very strange dream brought on by too much coffee and late-night research. But when she arrived at work, Director Thompson's serious expression quickly destroyed that hope. "Elena, we need to talk about your situation," he said, closing the door to his office behind her. "The legal department has been working all night on this." She slumped into the chair across from his desk. "Please tell me there's a way out of this." Director Thompson pulled out a thick folder filled with documents. "I wish I could. Your grandmother's signature is on an official interstellar treaty. According to our lawyers, breaking this agreement could seriously damage Earth's trade relationships with the Celestian Empire. We're talking about technology sharing, medical advances, and resources that could benefit millions of people." Elena felt her heart sink. "So I'm supposed to sacrifice my life for the greater good?" "Nobody's asking you to sacrifice anything yet. But we need to handle this carefully. The princess has requested permission to stay on Earth for several months, to court you properly, according to her people's customs." "Court me?" Elena laughed, but it sounded more like a sob. "This just keeps getting more unreal." 3 days later, Elena discovered exactly what Celestian courting looked like, and it was nothing like anything she had ever experienced. She was working late in her lab when the light suddenly dimmed and began pulsing with soft blue patterns. The air filled with the most beautiful music she had ever heard, like wind chimes mixed with flowing water. Princess Zarathia appeared in the doorway, carrying what looked like a small tree made entirely of crystal. "Dr. Vasquez, I have brought you a gift from my home world," the princess announced, her voice filled with pride. "This is a harmony tree. It responds to the emotions of those nearby and creates music to match their feelings." Elena stared at the crystal tree, which was now humming a melody that sounded suspiciously worried and confused. "That's very thoughtful, but you can't just appear in my workplace like this. There are security protocols." Princess Zarathia looked genuinely puzzled. "But how else am I to demonstrate my worthiness as a partner? On Celestia, we show our devotion through grand gestures and meaningful gifts." The next morning, Elena arrived at work to find her parking spot filled with flowers that seemed to glow from within. They covered her car completely, and a small crowd of her co-workers had gathered to stare at the display. When she tried to move them, the flowers sang in harmony. "This is getting out of hand," Elena muttered, trying to brush glowing petals off. Her windshield, Dr. Rodriguez from the physics department, approached with barely contained excitement. "Elena, are these really from an alien world? The molecular structure must be fascinating." Before Elena could answer, Princess Zarathia materialized beside her car, literally stepping out of thin air. Several people in the crowd gasped and pulled out their phones to record. "Good morning, my beloved," the princess said cheerfully. "I hope the dawn blossoms from the gardens of Vega 7 please you. They only bloom in the presence of true affection." Elena felt her face turn red as cameras flashed around them. "We need to talk. Privately." That afternoon, Elena managed to get the princess alone in an empty conference room. "You can't keep doing things like this," she explained, trying to stay calm. "Humans don't court each other with teleportation and magical flowers. People are starting to talk, and not in a good way." Princess Zarathia's shoulders drooped slightly. "I am trying to follow the customs of my people. How else should I show you that I am serious about our bond? Maybe start by getting to know me as a person. Like, what's my favorite food? What movies do I like? What are my dreams and fears?" Elena sat down across from the princess. "In human relationships, we usually begin with friendship." The princess considered this carefully. "Your grandmother did not explain these customs. On Celestia, compatibility is determined through family research and formal presentations of worthiness. Romance grows after the bonding ceremony, not before." "Well, That's not how it works here. Here, people choose their own partners based on feelings, shared experiences, and personal connection. Over the next few weeks, Princess Zarathea tried to adapt to human courting customs, but the results were often disastrous. She attempted to take Elena on what she called a traditional human dating experience by reserving an entire restaurant for just the two of them. When Elena explained that humans usually preferred casual, less overwhelming dates, the princess tried again by inviting her to a movie theater. Unfortunately, Princess Zarathea had never experienced human entertainment before. During a romantic comedy, she stood up in the middle of the theater and loudly asked why the humans on screen were making such poor logical decisions. When the audience shushed her, she responded by accidentally making herself glow brighter in confusion, lighting up the entire theater. Elena spent most of these early attempts hiding her face in embarrassment, but she began to notice something interesting. Despite the cultural mishaps, Princess Zarathea never gave up trying. She listened carefully to Elena's explanations and genuinely wanted to understand human ways of thinking. During one particularly awkward coffee shop visit, where the princess had tried to pay for their drinks with what appeared to be actual diamonds, Elena found herself laughing for the first time since this whole situation began. "You really have no idea how anything works here, do you?" Elena asked, watching the princess examine a simple paper napkin with scientific fascination. "I am beginning to understand that," Princess Zarathea admitted with a small smile. "Your world is far more complex than our diplomatic reports suggested. But I am not giving up, Dr. Vasquez. I believe there is wisdom in your customs, even if I do not yet understand them." That conversation marked a turning point. Elena realized that underneath all the royal formality and alien customs, Princess Zarathea was just as lost and uncertain as she was. They were both trying to navigate an impossible situation that neither of them had chosen. The real complications began when news of their arrangement somehow leaked to the media. Elena woke up one morning to find news vans parked outside her apartment building and reporters shouting questions through her door. Headlines read, "Scientist engaged to alien princess," and "Earth's first interstellar marriage." Some people thought the whole thing was romantic and exciting. They sent Elena flowers and letters of support, calling her brave for bridging the gap between worlds. But others were less supportive. Protesters gathered outside the Space Relations Institute with signs reading, "Keep Earth human and no alien interference." Elena's normal life completely disappeared. She couldn't go grocery shopping without being followed by cameras. Her phone rang constantly with interview requests. Even her family members were being contacted by reporters wanting to know more about her grandmother's mysterious treaty. The attention put enormous strain on Elena's friendships. Her best friend Amy stopped returning her calls, saying she couldn't handle the media attention. Some of her coworkers treated her differently, either with jealousy over her sudden fame or with fear about her alien connection. "I just want my old life back," Elena confessed to Princess Zarathea during one of their supervised meetings at the Institute. "Everything feels out of control." The princess looked genuinely sorry. "I did not intend for you to suffer because of my presence here. Perhaps I should return to Celestia and find another way to honor our family's agreement." For the first time since this whole thing started, Elena felt a pang of something that might have been disappointment. Despite all the chaos and confusion, she had begun to look forward to their conversations. Princess Zarathea was incredibly intelligent, surprisingly funny when she wasn't trying so hard to be formal, and genuinely kind. "No, don't leave," Elena said quickly, surprising herself. "Maybe we can figure out a way to make this work for both of us." Princess Zarathea's face lit up with hope, and Elena realized that somewhere in the middle of all the chaos, she had stopped thinking of the princess as just an obligation and started seeing her as a person worth knowing. 2 weeks after the media chaos began, Director Thompson called Elena into his office with an unexpected proposal. "We need both of you to work together on something," he said, sliding a research folder across his desk. The Celestian government has offered to share data about life forms on planets in their territory. They want you and Princess Zarathea to collaborate on a joint study about which Earth species might survive on other worlds. Elena flipped through the folder. Her scientific curiosity immediately sparked despite her personal complications. This data is incredible. They have detailed information about atmospheric conditions, soil composition, and ecosystem structures from dozens of planets. The princess specifically requested to work with you on this project. She said it would give you both a chance to focus on shared interests rather than other pressures. That afternoon, Elena found herself sitting across from Princess Zarathea in a quiet research lab, surrounded by holographic displays showing alien landscapes. For the first time since they met, the princess wasn't trying to court her or demonstrate worthiness. Instead, she was simply sharing her knowledge with the excitement of a fellow scientist. "Look at this," Princess Zarathea said, gesturing to a three-dimensional image of a purple forest. "This is from Kepler 442b. The trees there grow in perfect mathematical spirals because of the planet's unique magnetic field. I studied there for 3 years before my royal duties called me home." Elena leaned forward, fascinated. "You studied on other planets?" "Oh, yes. I have visited 47 different worlds in my lifetime. Each one teaches you something new about how life adapts and thrives." The princess's eyes sparkled with genuine passion. "I was actually planning an expedition to explore the Outer Rim galaxies when our family's arrangement became active." "You gave up exploring the universe to come marry me?" Elena felt a strange twist in her stomach. Princess Zarathea was quiet for a moment. "Duty to family comes first in my culture. But I will admit, I had hoped this assignment might be different from the typical arranged matches on Celestia." "What do you mean?" "Most royal marriages are between people who have known each other since childhood, people from similar backgrounds with similar expectations. But you're an explorer like me, even if you explore through research rather than travel. Your grandmother's report suggested you had the same curiosity about the universe that drives me." Elena studied the princess's face and saw something she hadn't noticed before, a kind of loneliness that felt familiar. "Were you nervous about meeting me?" "Terrified," Princess Zarathea admitted with a laugh. "I practiced our first conversation hundreds of times during the journey to Earth. I wanted so badly to make a good impression." "Well, the marriage announcement definitely made an impression," Elena said dryly. They spent the next several hours lost in their research comparing Earth's ecosystem patterns with those from distant worlds. Elena found herself genuinely enjoying the princess's company when they weren't focused on marriage arrangements. Zarathea was incredibly intelligent, with a sense of humor that caught Elena off guard. "Your species has a fascinating relationship with caffeine," the princess observed, watching Elena pour her 4th cup of coffee. "On Celestia, we have a similar stimulant, but consuming it 4 times in one day would be considered a serious addiction." "Hey, this is a normal amount of coffee for a scientist," Elena protested. "Besides, how do you know so much about human behavior?" "I may have spent considerable time studying Earth culture before coming here. Your entertainment broadcasts are particularly educational, though I find your romantic comedies very confusing." "Why do the characters always run through airports?" Elena burst out laughing. "You've been watching romantic comedies to learn about human relationships? Your grandmother's reports mentioned that humans learn about love through stories. I thought it would help me understand what you might expect from a partner." The mental image of an alien princess earnestly taking notes during romantic movies was so absurd that Elena couldn't stop giggling. For the first time in weeks, she felt relaxed and happy. Over the following days, their collaboration deepened. They discovered that Elena's research on plant adaptation matched perfectly with Zarathea's knowledge of extreme planetary conditions. Together, they began developing theories about how Earth species might be modified to survive on other worlds. You know, Elena said one evening as they worked late in the lab, if we weren't in this weird arranged marriage situation, I think we could actually be good friends. Princess Zarathea looked up from her holographic notes. I would like that. Very much. I have never had a friend who understood my passion for science. Really? Never? Royal life can be quite isolating. Most people either want something from you or are too intimidated to speak naturally. You are the first person in years who has argued with my theories and challenged my conclusions. Elena realized she had been doing exactly that, treating the princess like an equal colleague rather than royalty. Does that bother you? The arguing, I mean? It delights me, Zarathea said with a warm smile. Intelligence without independent thought is merely decoration. Their growing friendship was tested unexpectedly when Dr. Chen from the physics department asked Elena out to dinner. He was someone she had been interested in for months before her life became complicated by alien princesses and arranged marriages. Elena said yes without thinking, desperate for some normalcy in her life. But when she mentioned the date casually to Princess Zarathea the next day, the reaction was immediate and startling. The princess's usual calm composure cracked. Her skin dimmed from its normal shimmer, and the temperature in the room dropped, noticeably. You are going on a romantic outing with another person? It's just dinner, Elena said, confused by the intensity of the reaction. We're friends, remember? You don't actually want to marry me any more than I want to marry you. That is not entirely accurate, Princess Zarathea said. Quietly, Elena felt her heart skip. What do you mean? I mean that working with you these past weeks, getting to know your mind and your humor and your kindness. I find myself looking forward to our time together in ways that have nothing to do with family duty. The admission hung in the air between them. Elena stared at the princess, seeing vulnerability in her purple eyes that hadn't been there before. But you said yourself that this arrangement wasn't fair to either of us, Elena protested, though her voice lacked conviction. I said that before I knew you, Zarathea replied. Before I understood how rare it is to find someone who challenges your thinking and makes you laugh and shares your dreams of understanding the universe. Elena felt torn between conflicting emotions. Part of her was touched by the princess's honest feelings, but another part rebelled against the idea that she was developing romantic feelings for someone she was supposed to marry. I can't just cancel the date because you're having feelings about our arrangement, Elena said, though she felt guilty even as she said it. That wouldn't be fair to Dr. Chen, and it wouldn't be fair to me either. Princess Zarathea drew herself, up to her full height, royal composure sliding back into place like armor. Of course. You are absolutely right to pursue relationships with people you have chosen freely. I apologize for my inappropriate reaction. But Elena could see the hurt in her eyes, and it made her stomach twist with an emotion she didn't want to examine too closely. The date with Dr. Chen went terribly. Elena spent the entire evening distracted, thinking about purple eyes and shimmering skin, and the way Princess Zarathea's face lit up when she explained a complex scientific concept. When Dr. Chen tried to hold her hand over dessert, Elena pulled away instinctively. I'm sorry, she said, standing up abruptly. I have to go. She found Princess Zarathea alone in the research lab at nearly midnight, staring at holographic star charts with an expression of deep sadness. Your date ended early, the princess observed without looking up. Yeah, it did. Elena sat down across from her. I kept thinking about our conversation today. I hope I did not make you uncomfortable. It was not my intention to complicate your evening. Elena took a deep breath. The thing is, you did complicate it, but not in the way you think. Princess. Zarathea finally looked at her, hope and uncertainty warring in her expression. I couldn't stop thinking about you, Elena admitted. About us. About how much I've started to enjoy spending time with you. And that scares me, because I don't know if these feelings are real or if they're just because we're thrown together in this impossible situation. For the first time since they met, Princess Zarathea reached across the table and gently touched Elena's hand. Her skin was warm and soft, with just the faintest shimmer. "Perhaps," she said quietly, "the only way to find out is to stop fighting against the possibility and see where our hearts lead us." The weeks following Elena and Princess Zarathea's honest conversation brought both joy and mounting pressure. They continued their research together, but now their time was filled with stolen glances, accidental touches, and conversations that stretched late into the night. Elena found herself looking forward to each day in a way she hadn't experienced since childhood. But the outside world wasn't giving them space to explore these new feelings naturally. Director Thompson called Elena into his office on a gray Monday morning, his expression more serious than usual. "We have a problem. Both governments are getting impatient about setting a wedding date. The Celestian Empire has been very generous in sharing technology and resources, but they're expecting this marriage to happen soon." Elena felt her stomach drop. "How soon?" "They're suggesting 6 weeks from now. They want to hold the ceremony on the space station orbiting Earth as a symbol of unity between our worlds." 6 weeks? Elena's voice came out as a squeak. "But we're just starting to really get to know each other." "I understand that, Elena, but there are larger forces at play here. This arrangement affects trade agreements worth billions of dollars and scientific partnerships that could advance human knowledge by decades." Director Thompson looked genuinely sorry. "The pressure is coming from very high up." That evening, Elena met Princess Zarathea in their usual research lab, but neither of them could focus on work. The princess seemed unusually quiet, her normal shimmer dimmed with worry. "You have heard about the timeline they wish to establish," Zarathea said finally. 6 weeks, Elena confirmed miserably. "It feels like we're being rushed into something huge before we even understand what we mean to each other." On Celestia, my advisors are saying similar things. They worry that too much delay will make both governments look weak. Princess Zarathea touched one of their shared research displays, making it flicker with nervous energy. "But I find myself wanting more time with you, not less." Elena reached across the table and took the princess's hand, something that had become natural between them over the past weeks. "What if we're making a mistake? What if these feelings we have are just because we're forced together in this weird situation? Do you truly believe that?" Zarathea asked softly. Elena considered the question honestly. When she was with the princess, everything felt right in a way that had nothing to do with treaties or family arrangements. They laughed at the same things, got excited about the same discoveries, and could talk for hours without running out of things to say. But the pressure surrounding them made it hard to trust those feelings. "I don't know," Elena admitted. "Sometimes I think we could be perfect together, and other times I wonder if I'm just convincing myself because everyone expects it." Their conversation was interrupted by alarms blaring throughout the building. Security lights flashed red, and an automated voice announced that the facility was in lockdown. Director Thompson's voice crackled over the intercom system. "Elena, Princess Zarathea, stay where you are. We have a security situation, and you're both safer in the interior lab." Through the small window in their lab door, Elena could see security guards running down the hallway. Her heart pounded as she realized that whatever was happening, it was serious. Princess Zarathea stood up, her entire body beginning to glow with an inner light that Elena had never seen before. "Something is very wrong. I can sense hostility nearby." "Sense hostility? What do you mean?" Before the princess could answer, the lights went out completely. Emergency power kicked in a moment later, bathing everything in an eerie red glow. Elena heard the sound of energy weapons firing somewhere in the building. "Dr. Vasquez," came a harsh voice from the hallway, speaking in accented English. "We know you are here. Come out now and no one else needs to be hurt. Princess Zarathea moved protectively in front of Elena, her glow becoming brighter. Those are Celestian voices, but they are not from my government's delegation. Who are they? Rebels. There has always been a faction on my world that opposes relationships with other species. They see our arrangement as contamination of royal bloodlines. The princess's voice was grim. I had hoped they would not follow me here. The lab door suddenly exploded inward, and 3 figures in dark armor entered. They looked similar to Princess Zarathea, but with skin that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Their weapons glowed with the same energy Elena had seen in Celestian technology. Princess Zarathea, the leader said in their musical language, which Elena somehow understood thanks to the translation device she wore for their research. You will come with us now. Your shame to the royal bloodline ends today. I will not. Abandon Dr. Vasquez, the princess replied firmly, stepping further in front of Elena. The human contamination will be eliminated. You have no choice in this matter. Elena felt terror like she had never experienced, but also something else. Fierce protectiveness for the woman she had grown to care about so deeply. Leave her alone, she shouted, though she knew she had no way to fight energy weapons. The leader laughed coldly. The inferior species speaks. How amusing! What happened next took only seconds, but felt like hours. The rebel raised his weapon toward Elena. Princess Zarathea let out a sound like breaking crystal, and suddenly blazed with light so bright Elena had to close her eyes. When she opened them again, the princess was surrounded by a shimmering force field, and the rebel's energy blast had bounced harmlessly away. You will not harm her, Princess Zarathea declared, her voice carrying power that made the walls vibrate. You choose this human over your own people? The rebel demanded. I choose love over hatred. I choose understanding over fear. I choose Elena because she sees me as a person, not just a symbol or a duty. The princess raised her own hands, and Elena realized she had weapons too, energy that flowed from her fingertips like controlled lightning. A battle erupted in the small lab, with Princess Zarathea fighting desperately to protect Elena while also trying not to seriously hurt her own people. During the chaos, Elena heard more security forces arriving in the hallway. Human voices shouted orders, and the rebels suddenly found themselves outnumbered. The leader looked at Princess Zarathea with disgust. You have chosen your path, traitor. Do not expect mercy from the Empire when they learn of your defiance. The rebels retreated, disappearing in flashes of light that Elena assumed was some kind of teleportation technology. In the sudden quiet that followed, Princess Zarathea collapsed to her knees, her glow fading rapidly. Elena rushed to her side and found the princess trembling with exhaustion. Are you hurt? Elena asked, checking for injuries. No, but using that much power, it takes time to recover. The princess looked up at Elena with eyes full of emotion. I am so sorry you were put in danger because of me. Elena helped the princess to a chair, her hands shaking from leftover adrenaline. You saved my life. You risked everything to protect me. Of course I did. I love you, Elena, not because our families arranged it, not because of duty or politics, but because you are brilliant and kind and brave, and being with you makes me want to be the best version of myself. The words hit Elena like a physical force. In that moment, watching the princess fight for her despite the cost, Elena finally understood the truth of her own feelings. I love you too, she whispered. I think I have for weeks, but I was too scared to admit it. They held each other in the damaged lab, surrounded by broken equipment and scorch marks on the walls, and Elena felt more certain about something than she had ever felt in her life. But even as they embraced, Elena knew that loving Princess Zarathea and marrying her under these circumstances were two different things. The attack had made something clear. As long as they went through with the arranged marriage while under political pressure, there would always be doubts about whether their choice was truly free. Zarathea, Elena said softly, using the princess's name without the formal title for the first time. I need to ask you something important. Anything. If there were no arrangements, no political pressure, no expectations from our families, would you still want to be with me? The princess pulled back to look into Elena's eyes. Without question. But why do you ask? Elena took a deep breath, knowing that what she was about to propose would complicate everything. Because I think we need to start over, as equals, making our own choices, without any treaties or arrangements forcing us together. What are you saying? I'm saying that I love you enough to risk losing you. I want to choose you freely, and I want you to be able to choose me the same way. Princess Zarathea's expression showed understanding mixed with fear. That would mean refusing the arranged marriage. The political consequences could be severe. I know. But can you honestly say you want to marry me while wondering if I'm only doing it because I have to? The princess was quiet for a long moment, considering Elena's words. When she finally spoke, her voice was filled with both love and determination. You are right. A love that cannot choose is not love at all. Whatever the cost, I want us to begin again as equals who choose each other freely. The press conference was scheduled for noon on a Tuesday, and Elena had never been more nervous in her entire life. She stood behind the podium in the main auditorium of the Space Relations Institute, looking out at a sea of reporters, cameras, and government officials. Princess Zarathea sat in the front row, her expression calm but supportive. Director Thompson had tried to talk Elena out of this decision for 3 days straight. Think about what you're doing, he had pleaded. This could damage Earth's relationship with the Celestian Empire permanently. But Elena had made up her mind, and surprisingly, she had support from an unexpected source. Her own mother had called the night before, after finally learning about the arranged marriage situation. Your grandmother was a brilliant woman, but she lived in a different time, her mother had said. She believed in duty above all else. But you have the right to choose your own path, even if it's complicated. Now, facing the crowd of reporters, Elena took a deep breath and began to speak. Ladies and gentlemen, I have called this press conference to make an important announcement about my arranged marriage to Princess Zarathea of the Celestian Empire. The room fell completely silent. Camera flashes stopped. Even the reporters stopped scribbling in their notebooks. Over the past few months, I have had the honor of getting to know Princess Zarathea as a colleague, a friend, and as a person. She is intelligent, kind, and genuinely cares about building bridges between our worlds. Elena paused, looking directly at the princess, who nodded encouragingly. However, I cannot in good conscience enter into a marriage, even with someone I have grown to care about deeply, while under political pressure and contractual obligation. Love should be a choice, not a duty. Reporters began shouting questions, but Elena held up her hand. Therefore, I am formally declining to honor the arranged marriage agreement made by my grandmother 20 years ago. I believe that true partnership between our species must be built on mutual respect and free choice, not political necessity. The room erupted in chaos. Reporters jumped to their feet, cameramen pushed forward, and government officials looked panicked. But Elena wasn't finished. I'm also proposing something new. I would like the opportunity to court Princess Zarathea properly, as equals, without any political arrangements or family pressure. If she is willing, I would like us to start over and see if we can build something real together. Elena stepped away from the podium and walked directly to Princess Zarathea, who stood up with tears shimmering in her purple eyes. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the princess said formally, her voice carrying to every corner of the suddenly quiet room. I accept your proposal to begin again. I also have something to announce. Princess Zarathea moved to the podium with her usual grace, but Elena could see the determination in her posture. "I am renouncing my claim to the Celestian throne," she announced, causing another eruption of noise from the crowd. "I choose love over duty, understanding over tradition, and Elena over empire." The aftermath of their joint announcement was immediate and intense. Both Earth and Celestian governments scrambled to control the diplomatic damage. Emergency meetings were called. Trade negotiations were put on hold. Some news outlets called it the most romantic gesture in human history, while others described it as a disaster for interspecies relations. Elena and Princess Zarathea found themselves effectively under protective custody while both governments figured out what to do next. They were housed in a secure facility, unable to leave but finally able to spend time together without the pressure of marriage hanging over them. "Do you regret it?" Elena asked on their third day of confinement. They were sitting in a small garden area, watching Earth's sunset through reinforced windows. "Never," Zarathea replied without hesitation. "For the first time in my life, I feel truly free, even if we are currently locked in a government facility." Elena laughed. "It's not exactly the romantic fresh start I was hoping for. Actually, I find it quite romantic. We gave up kingdoms and political alliances just to have the chance to choose each other. That seems rather extraordinary to me." Over the following weeks, something unexpected happened. The story of their sacrifice for love began to resonate with people across both worlds. Humans were touched by the idea of an alien princess giving up her throne for love. Celestians, despite their traditional culture, were moved by the concept of choosing partnership over duty. Young people especially embraced their story. Choose Love began trending on social media platforms. Couples from both species started speaking out about the importance of free choice in relationships. Even some traditional Celestian families began questioning the wisdom of arranged marriages. The pressure on both governments to find a solution grew intense. Finally, after a month of negotiations, a compromise was reached. Elena and Zarathea were released from protective custody and given permission to date publicly, with the understanding that any future marriage would be their choice alone. In exchange, they agreed to serve as ambassadors for a new type of interspecies cooperation, one based on voluntary cultural exchange rather than political obligation. Their first official date was simple but perfect. Elena took Zarathea to a small cafe near the university where she had studied. They sat outside under the stars, sharing coffee and pastries while talking about everything and nothing. "This is nice," Zarathea said, watching people walk by on the sidewalk. "No cameras, no protocols, no expectations, just us." "Just us," Elena agreed, reaching across the small table to take her hand. Dating Princess Zarathea without the pressure of arranged marriage was everything Elena had hoped it would be. They went to movies together, where Zarathea slowly learned to appreciate human storytelling. They cooked meals in Elena's apartment, with Zarathea teaching Elena about Celestian spices that made colors shift and change on the plate. They had their first real fight 3 months into their relationship, when Elena got jealous about the attention Zarathea received at scientific conferences. They worked through it by talking honestly about their feelings, something that felt revolutionary after months of political pressure. "I love that you're brilliant and accomplished," Elena said during their reconciliation conversation. "I just sometimes feel insecure about measuring up to someone who has explored 47 different worlds. And I love that you challenge my ideas and make me see things differently," Zarathea replied. "But sometimes I worry that you see me as exotic, rather than just as myself." Those honest conversations brought them closer together. Elena realized that her feelings for Zarathea had nothing to do with her alien nature and everything to do with who she was as an individual. Zarathea learned to trust that Elena's love was genuine rather than influenced by her royal status. A year after their dramatic press conference, Elena and Zarathea decided they were ready for the next step. But this time, it was entirely their choice. Elena proposed during one of their late-night research sessions, surrounded by holographic displays of distant galaxies. "We've explored the universe together through science," she said, getting down, on one knee with a ring that incorporated both Earth diamonds and Celestian crystals. "I'd like to explore life together as partners. Will you marry me?" Zarathea's answer was a kiss that made both of them glow with happiness. Their wedding was unlike anything either world had ever seen. It took place in the same auditorium where Elena had refused the arranged marriage, but this time the atmosphere was pure celebration. They wrote their own vows, combining human and Celestian traditions in ways that honored both cultures while reflecting their unique relationship. "I choose you not because our families decreed it, but because you make me laugh and challenge me to grow and see the universe through curious eyes," Elena said during the ceremony. "I choose you not because duty demands it, but because you showed me that love is not about obligation, but about finding someone who sees your soul and chooses to grow alongside it," Zarathea responded. The wedding was attended by representatives from both worlds, but also by ordinary people who had been inspired by their story. The ceremony was broadcast live, becoming a symbol of hope for voluntary cooperation between species. After the wedding, Elena and Zarathea honeymooned on Celestia, where Elena became the first human to visit the crystal cities and floating gardens of Zarathea's home world. They also traveled to remote research stations throughout the galaxy, combining their love of science with their love for each other. But their most important achievement was the precedent they had set. Their marriage became the template for future interspecies relationships, voluntary, based on genuine connection, and celebrated by both communities. Years later, when young couples from both worlds faced family pressure about arranged partnerships, they would point to Elena and Zarathea as proof that love could triumph without abandoning respect for family and culture. Elena and Zarathea continued their research together, making groundbreaking discoveries about life throughout the galaxy. But their greatest discovery was that sometimes the most unexpected arrangements can lead to the most extraordinary love stories, as long as people have the courage to choose each other freely.